what's up? Hello, it's Katie Colson here. Welcome back to my channel, and I am here to wrap up my reading month for the month of April. As of right now, I have read 16 books in the month of April, but we do have a couple more days left, and I am very close to finishing a book. Very close. So I'm going to tag in something at the end telling you what else I ended up reading in April to finish out this video. But as of right now, the first book I read in April was The Sword of Kygen. But this one is an epic fantasy. It is a standalone. You don't see that very often. And I very much enjoyed it. Like, I was very surprised. And I am not in my fantasy bag. And like, epic fantasy is very hard for me to compute. So for me to give this 4 stars, like, amazing, okay? So you're following a mother and son, and they live in this Kygenese empire, and she used to be a warrior, but then she was in this, like, arranged marriage with this, like, really famous warrior and legendary warrior, so she put aside her blade and was like, never mind, like, who am I? No, you don't know me. Who's that girl? And gave up all of that stuff. And then her son is training to be a warrior, but then when the enemy comes to their door, she has to pick up the blade and fight with her son and her husband against these people. Let's talk about patriarchy. Yeah. Oh my God, this is literally like, it's about how messed up the government is and the military and how they just weaponize the military to do whatever they want and get what they want. And it was super good. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Miss Wang, she did some fucked up shit in the middle of this book. The middle of this book, she did that. She chose violence. She chose violence, and she didn't have to. So if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. And next, I read the graphic novel Punderworld by Linda Shajik, and this is a Hades and Persephone story where she's being kept by her mother Demeter, like hostage basically, and Hades is this like kind of bumbling fool, like riddled with anxiety, and he falls in love with her, but then Demeter's like, ew, nobody's allowed in here. No, she's got a job to do. And then it's like them trying to be together, and I liked it. I thought it was really cute. I don't think I care to like continue with the series, but it was fine for what it was, and I think I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. And then we have this Hot Mess Express, Sundial by Catriona Ward. She had me in the first couple chapters. In the first couple chapters, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be 5 stars. This is so good. Oh my God, oh my God. I was gasping, jaw on the freaking floor. And then as it kept going, I was like, you're not going where I thought you were gonna go, where I want you to go. And none of this is making any sense. Okay, so basically, it's like, I can't even really explain it because the plot completely twists into something completely different. But you're following this mom and her 2 daughters, and one of them is a perfect angel, and the other one is like the spawn of Satan, okay? So the kid is doing some freaky ass shit, and the mom is like, oh my God, I used to do that when I was a kid. So I'm gonna take you back to my old home, Sundial, and show you and tell you stories about what happened to me and how that's gonna help you not make those decisions. Yeah, okay, but let me tell you, the stories of her childhood and then also like just all this weird shit, like if you've read this book, they do like experiments on dogs, and I get it that this was like a real thing that people did, like scientists did, but that doesn't make it interesting, and it doesn't make it a good plot of a book. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I didn't like this, and I would suggest that you skip it. Okay, we are just really rounding it out with some disappointments. We have I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey Mcquiston. I hated this book. I hated it. What's happening? Like, I rated Red, White, and Royal Blue 5 stars. I rated One Last Stop like 3.75. And then I Kiss Shara Wheeler, I'm giving 1.5 stars. And I feel like I'm just being nice on the half. It's like, okay, so this is a sapphic YA romance. It's these 2 high schoolers who are clashing for valedictorian, okay? And they are so toxic. They're so fucking toxic. And Shara Wheeler's one of them. And then I can't remember what our main character's name is, but Shara Wheeler disappears. And the main character is like, well, I have to find her because I can't just win because she disappeared. Like that's not good enough for me. I need to know that I beat her. But right before Shara Wheeler disappeared, she made out with the main character at a party. But then she also made out with her boyfriend at that party. And she made out with her neighbor who's been like obsessed with her. And they all know that she made out with them, and they're all trying to find her. But for some reason, don't seem to think it's fucking weird that she, one, was cheating on her boyfriend, and then was like, why does the main character not think it's weird? She was making out with 2 other dudes. Like, why are you so obsessed with her? And when I tell you, Shara Wheeler is so toxic. She is toxic. Toxic. The toxicity. I'm like, how could you be attracted to this girl? Like, I don't understand. It was kind of pathetic. And then also, I didn't like that it was like every single character at some point would discover that they were queer. And I know that there's plenty of queer people in this world. I wish more people would open up about it. But when you're reading a book and it's every single character, it's every chapter, someone is like coming out as being gay, it's just fan service. It's just queer bait. Like, this is unrealistic, and it doesn't matter because you're doing it every chapter. So like, it's not even significant in any way. I'm complaining so much. I didn't like this book, and I probably will never read from this author again. And then I both physically read and listened to the audiobook twice for the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. If you didn't already know, this was my Patreon Smut Salon Book Club pick for the month of April. How many times am I gonna fuck up the months of the year in a video? Every one of them? Quite possibly. In the month of April, this was the pick, and I would have hopefully already done the live show for this. It's on May 3rd. If you didn't already know, if that's already happened, cool. If it hasn't happened, yikes. But I do have a whole reading vlog that's gonna be coming out for this, so I'm not gonna go super into it, but basically, this is supposed to be like a paranormal mystery where in 1977, this woman named Beth was accused of being the lady killer and killing these 2 people. But then she was acquitted. And in 2017, we're following Shay, who is a true crime blogger who bumps into Beth and is like, oh my God, can I like interview you? And Beth is like, sure, but you have to come to my creepy ass mansion that's haunted. And I'm going to tell you, the first time I read this, I gave it 3 stars. The second time I read it, I gave it 2 stars because this book isn't bad, but I really hated how like the paranormal elements meant nothing. Like they were completely irrelevant to the story. Like, they didn't matter at all. So why were they even there? I don't get it. And then also, if you've read this, what was her name? Not Libby. It was like Lily, the sister. I do not understand. I don't understand why but Beth was so obsessed with her. I don't get it. I would have thrown that bitch to the curb after like at least the 3rd incident. But she didn't. I don't get it. I don't know. This was a disappointment for me, but I'm really glad that it seems like everybody on the Discord is really liking it. So I'm glad I picked something that the majority of people are giving 4 and 5 stars. And then I listened to The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osmond. This is the 2nd book in the series, The Thursday Murder Club. And the first one I read and thought, oh yeah, it's good. I gave it 3.5 stars. I was like, yeah, this is cool, okay. The second book, 5 stars. 5 stars. Oh my God, it had all my tropes. I freaking loved it. So basically you're following this group of senior citizens who are living in this senior living facility, and every Thursday they go to the puzzle room and they basically bring out cold cases and try to solve them. And then they kind of get roped into solving cases that are currently happening because of situations. And in this book, this guy is like, hey, Elizabeth, who's the main character. He's like, hey, Elizabeth, do you remember me? And she's like, I saw you die. You died in my arms. So yeah, I remember you. And it is freaking wild. And the whole trope between them, hilarious. Loved it. I was like, excuse me? Like, I don't know. I dug it. And then also Elizabeth's husband is so sweet. I love him. Okay. Anyway, I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. And I do want to tell you, one of my favorite quotes from this book was Joyce, who I love, is like, I'm not going to get this completely correctly, but she says, the rate of female serial killers has gone up drastically. And if you don't look at the context, it's a real sign of progress. I love it. And then I binged Sleeping Giants and Waking Gods by Sylvain Nouvelle, and I ate this shit up. Now, I haven't read the 3rd one, Only Human, because I've heard it is very disappointing and just not good. So I'm not planning on reading it. Literally, there's not a single person that's told me it's worth reading, which is disappointing. But the first 2 books, highly recommend. Highly recommend. They're so freaking good. Like, if you like dark matter and recursion, I think you would like these books. And definitely the audiobooks. Like, I've heard people say that the physical books just shouldn't even exist because the audiobooks are so good. And it's a full cast narration, and there's like sound effects. There's at one point where a character screams, and I genuinely was like terrified because I did not see that shit coming. But basically what we were doing is we are following a bunch of different characters, and this girl, this young girl, when she's walking in the woods, she falls into this giant hole, and in this giant hole is this giant metal hand, like a giant robot hand. She falls right into the palm of it. And it's basically like it came out from inside the earth. And everywhere all around the world, other body parts of this robot are just like popping up, and you're following a team of like scientists and like government officials and military officials that are trying to find the pieces of this robot and put it together and figure out like what's going on. And also like the US wants to be the first one to do it, and then other countries are getting involved, and it's like they're like threatening a war because what they realize is that this is not man-made, that it has to be aliens, and they're trying to figure out like how to break that to the public, all this shit. And it's so much fun. It's so good. Like, it's funny, it's thrilling, it's dramatic. Like, it is 5 stars. I gave both of them 5 stars. Phenomenal, like literally obsessed. And then I chose to put myself through the gut-wrenching experience that is Loveless by Alice Osmond. I read this in 2020, and it gutted me. It gutted me. This book means the most to me that any book has ever meant in the fucking world. There is not a star rating high enough for this book. There just isn't. And rereading it was so hard, like so hard. But the audiobook had just come out, and I wanted to see if it would slap as hard as the physical book, which clearly it couldn't, because I could not get even a couple sentences into the audiobook without having to follow along with the physical book, because it's so stunning, and because I was like seriously highlighting every freaking sentence. Like, I've never annotated and shit like this. Like, this is insane. And I needed to redo the tabbing system because, I shit you not, whenever I was done, I had to take out 50 tabs. And these are the ones that were left over. I think it was like 47 tabs. Like, you know you love something when, you know what I'm saying? But I was like, they kind of lose meaning at that point when there's so many of them. But this is as little as I could do. Like, all of these tabs are so important to me. So if you somehow don't know what Loveless is about, hello, welcome to my freaking channel. Katie Colson here to shove this down everybody's throat. Olivia, read it. Olivia, you need to read this book. And you know I'm not going to shut up about it. Okay, so this is about Georgia. Also, I live in Georgia. Hello? And then also, Georgia is a musical theater nerd. Hello. So am I. I want to know her zodiac sign, actually. It's definitely not a Gemini. She's probably like a Libra or something. Or maybe, yeah. Maybe like a Libra or Pisces or something. Okay. This is about Georgia, and she has never had a crush on a boy, a girl, they, anybody, and she wants to, and she's about to go to college, and she is like, I haven't lived, you know, like, I haven't lived this life everybody says that not only I should already have, but that I should be desperately wanting. So she decides that she is going to have the traditional college experience. She's going to kiss somebody, she's going to have sex, she's going to have a relationship, she's going to find love, she's going to do it all. But the harder she keeps trying, the more it's coming to her understanding that she doesn't want any of that. And it's her coming to terms with and learning and digesting like all the different labels with sexuality and maybe what she is. This whole book is revolving around asexuality and aromance, which obviously heavily relates to me. I have never been so related to, like, I can't even tell you. It's like every freaking sentence of this, I have thought, I have said, everything George has done, I have done. Like, everything she did in this book, I've done it. So I just flipped to a random page, and this says, I wanted him to just do it. I wanted him to rip the plaster off, yank the bone back into shape, fix me. But I already knew there was nothing to fix. I was always going to be like this. Like, Alice Osmond, you can just fuck right off. And then for a complete cover by, I listened to Anatomy, a Love Story. I didn't look up what it was about, didn't care, didn't realize it was YA, but actually ended up loving it. And I don't really love YA all that much, but like, this was it. This was it. It was good. It had like Frankenstein vibes. It had like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde vibes. Like it was just like, you know, a gothic, like vintage Victorian moment, okay? So this is about this girl who wants to become a surgeon. Now, no woman has ever been able to study medicine and has never been able to be a surgeon, but she's like, I'm gonna find a way around it. So she's like dressing up as her brother and going and, this is in Liverpool, by the way. And is it Liverpool? I hope I'm right about that. What if I'm wrong? I'll put a giant thing over my face if I'm wrong. We're just gonna say Liverpool. Okay, cool. Thank you for agreeing with me. So it's in Liverpool, and this is factually a city or town that is famously known for its horrific surgical methods and like surgical teachings that it did there. And there's literally a museum like about surgery, and they have like all this fucked up shit that these people would do. And I'm like, what in the world? Oh my God, like the experiments they would do on people, terrifying. Oh my God. So this is based on that, and it's this guy, and it's based on a true story, but it takes a fantastical twist in this book. But it's based on the true story of this surgeon in Liverpool who there was this like he would pay people to go dig up graves and get fresh bodies for him and his students to dissect. And when that started getting found out and it was harder for him to get a hold of bodies, he paid these two dudes to kill people, because it was during this plague, to kill people and then just say they died of this plague and bring him the bodies. And this was like a real thing that happened, okay? And, oh, you know what's hilarious in the true story? Whenever they found out and they hung him and he died, his medical students dissected his body. What a small world. Anyway, in this book, we're following like basically a guy who's doing that, you know, but the reason why he's doing it is the fantastical twist. And I'm not going to give that away or anything, but you're following that girl who wants to be a surgeon and figure all this stuff out, and kind of ends up being intertwined in the story because there's a guy who's like a resurrection man, which is different than a grave robber, because a resurrection man takes the body, a grave robber takes like the jewelry and stuff. So he's a resurrection man, and he is getting her bodies so that she can learn how to be a surgeon. And then by doing that, kind of stumbles upon what this guy's doing. And then they kind of become, you know, shoved in that situation. And it is a love story. Technically, it's a love story between the guy and the girl, which is great. But it's really about this fucked up, dark, twisted, surgical fuckery. Like, it is, the love story is there, and that's great, but this is my kind of love story where I'm like, yeah, but the plot is better. Like, the plot is there. Oh my God. And I am wondering if there's going to be a second book, because the author at the end said that she's considering writing a sequel. And I'm very intrigued. But yeah, I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. And then I read Hex, mainly because of the cover also. And what? No. 2 stars. And I'm gonna give it 2 stars. I'm gonna give an extra 1 star to make it 2 stars, because the writing in itself is not bad. Like, the writing in itself had some good moments to it, okay? And there was some like kind of gory things that were kind of cool. But this book made no goddamn sense. It was meandering. It never found its plot. What is it talking about? Okay, so apparently there's this witch, this old witch that lives in this town. Nobody's really sure why, you know? And like, why is she there? I don't know. She's just chilling. She doesn't do anything. She just stands there in people's houses and like stares. Well, her eyes are sewn shut. She just stands there like this and doesn't do shit. Literally does nothing. Doesn't talk, doesn't like nothing. Just stands there. And then of course, this dumbass kid, Jaden, who is literally Sid from Toy Story, and you can't convince me otherwise. That is literally him. He decides, he's a teenager though, but so he like should know better, that he's gonna like fuck with her, and he's like touching her and like throwing things at her. Of course, that makes her mad. Duh. Okay. So she's like, the fuck are you doing? Oh my God. And then it's like kind of retaliating, and then but it's like, the book is bad, and I do not suggest you read it because the ending is bad and very unsatisfying. And then I read Gallant by Ve Schwab. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year. And this has a whole reading vlog for it that I've already done. So I'll have that linked if you want to see a lot of in-depth review. You can go there, and the whole reading experience, you know. But this is about Olivia Pryor, and she's at this all-girls boarding school that's like freaking terrible. Like, think about like what Matilda had to deal with in her home life, and that's what Olivia has to deal with. But something I really liked about this book is that Olivia is nonverbal. She can't speak. She's not deaf, but she can't speak. So she knows sign language, but no, everybody else like refuses to learn it for her. So the way that she has to communicate is so strict, and like people just can't talk to her and she can't talk to anybody, and it's so frustrating for her. And the way that Ve Schwab depicted that was immaculate. It was so good. Like, she did research. She knew what she was doing. But basically, she gets a letter from someone in her family, supposedly, saying like, hey, I need you to come back to Pryor, to our mansion. And she's like, what? Oh my God, I have a home? I have a family? Ah! So she goes there, but shit ain't quite right. Shit ain't quite right. You know what I'm saying? But okay, here's the thing. It's a very pretty book. It's a very pretty book. But I did not really like this. I'm going to give it 3 stars because I love the nonverbal elements, and I do think parts of this book were good. There are parts of this book I do think are good. But for me, it says it's YA, this reads as a middle grade. Like, this is a middle grade. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. There's not a single thing that happens in this book that isn't middle grade. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I don't get it. And then I also, like, this whole master of the house thing, I was just like, okay, what? Like, it wasn't enough backbone to give me any fleshed out storyline. Like, there was no backbone to make me care or believe in this story. So I didn't really like, I mean, it was disappointing, but it's still not a bad book. So I gave it 3 stars. And then I read this absolutely stunning book, Medusa by Jessie Burton. Look at this. And then let me show you under the dust jacket. I mean, for starters, look at that. Hello? What? But the back just says, if I told you that I'd killed a man with a glance, would you want to hear the rest? And then under the dust jacket, it says, I will tell you to look into me and you will see. Look, Medusa, girl and Gorgon, you, me. Stunning. Stunning. Oh my God. So obviously, this is about Medusa. It's about the girl behind the myth, okay? So this is like after she has had the curse put on her that her hair is snakes, and that if anybody like looks at her, you know, they'll turn to cement or stone, but she doesn't know that because the goddess doesn't tell her what's gonna happen. She's just like, you know, you'll see what happens if a man ever looks at you again. So she's like, oh my God, holy shit. So her and her 2 sisters go onto this island to like seclude themselves from everyone. But then this guy drifts up on shore and she's like hiding herself from him, but still communicating with him. And it's like they fall in love without being able to see each other, and how that goes about. And this book, it has so many beautiful illustrations. Like, let me just flip to a random one. Hello? Like, it's just fraught with illustrations. Now, I will say, this is not my kind of art style. I understand that it is gorgeous, like, it is gorgeous, but it's not my thing. It's pretty, but it's not really my kind of artwork, so that part was just, like, good for me, but I thought it was gonna be great. But the writing is very pretty. I annotated this. There's a lot of beautiful quotes in it. I am just gonna give it 4 stars because it is a very short book. It is very pretty, but it's not something that's like gonna really sit with you that you're really gonna remember, but it's beautiful. It's beautifully written. And let me just see if like a random quote. No, I can't read. I just read that one. Okay. This says, well, I think it's easier being told you're handsome. Sorry. Well, I think it's easier being told you're a handsome boy than it is to be told you're a beautiful girl. When beauty's assigned you as a girl, it somehow becomes the essence of your being. It takes over everything else you might be. When you're a boy, it never dominates who you can be. Like, excuse me? I listened to the audiobook for Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. This is a sapphic Victorian, like, mystery about con artists. Those are all my buzzwords. But there was no reason why this book needed to be 600 pages long. For what? For why? For why? It doesn't make any sense. Like, Sarah Waters, make it make sense. It doesn't, okay? And here's the thing. The writing is good. The narration is good. Like, the accents are good and everything, okay? And the story is good. But she never shut the fuck up. She never shut the fuck up. Sarah Waters would literally be writing something, and it was good. And then she would just repeat herself over and over again. And I was like, oh my God, we fucking got it. Like, it would be like, okay. It would be like one character asking another character, like, you have to help me. And the other character being like, no, I can't. And then being like, no, you have to help me. You're my only chance, you know? And the other character being like, I really can't. I don't know what to do. I really can't. And that would go on for 30 pages. until they eventually broke down and decided to help them. I got it 29 pages ago. 29 and a half pages ago. I got it and I was over it. Why did you keep talking about it? But like, okay, it's sapphic. It is sapphic and all that's great. Like if you love a long ass book, you're gonna love this shit. I don't. I'm gonna give it I have to give it 3.5 stars because the sapphic shit is phenomenal. But basically, this guy called Gentleman comes to this woman and is like, hey, I need to borrow your adopted daughter to pull off a scheme where I'm gonna steal this girl's money. And he's like, schemes this other girl into marrying him, and then the adopted girl, it's like supposed to be like, oh, she's the maid, but then he's gonna like con her out of her money. But then the main character, when she meets this girl, starts to feel a little differently and maybe doesn't want to go along with the scheme anymore. But then schemes on top of schemes on top of schemes on top of schemes. There is layers of this story. But it's too damn long. It's way too damn long. If this was 400 pages, I dare say even 450 pages, it probably would have been 5 stars. But as it is, 3.5. I'm going to be honest and tell you, I do not think it's possible for Peter Swanson to write a good book. I don't think he's capable. I do not think he's capable of it. Now, The Kind Worth Killing, that book is good. I gave it 4 stars because the weird ass porn poems that he put in it were completely unnecessary and disgusting and stupid, and I just thought that whole storyline was ridiculous, but everything else in it is good. Every book he's written since has been 1 star, truly terrible. Every value break, misogynistic, patriarchal, bullshit, completely predictable, terrible. And then there was 8 Perfect Murders, ripped off of every other mystery that's way better than his, literally spoiled every fucking mystery that's better than his, spoiled all of them, and then was predictable and stupid and ridiculous. And then this book, 9 Lives. He did our girl Agatha Christie so dirty. He did her so dirty. This is supposed to be and then they were none, like inspiration. No, it's not. It's a direct carbon copy that you dunked in water and the ink is all running down the page. You can barely read it. That's what this book is, okay? And you know what's horrible? This is the thing. It's supposed to be that you're following these 9 people who all get a letter in the mail with 9 names on it, one of them being theirs, and they all start getting picked off one by one. Okay, there's too many characters to focus on for starters. There's too many. But in the very beginning, it says, talking about, and then there were none, and talking about how, like, he spoils it for starters, but talking about how it ended, and I'm like, okay, so that's what's gonna happen in this book. And when I tell you, it goes down exactly like, and then there were none. It's like every little thing that happened and then there were none, he does in this book, except badly. Very badly, very badly. And then also, why? Peter Swanson. Do you have an author photo? Peter Swanson. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why did you put the N-word in this book? Not once, but twice. Why? Answer me. Why would you do this? And it's completely irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything to the story. It means nothing. He just throws it in there. And the audiobook, I was like, oh my God. Did you really just say that? It was unnecessary. It's just him talking about, and then there were none, and his grandma being like, well, you know the original title. And he's like, oh, 10 Little Indians. And she was like, no, it's 10 Little N-word. And I was like, what? And then literally the audacity that the main character, or that dude is like, what's wrong with that? And she's like, well, I know, but other people these days might have a problem with it. And that did not serve the plot at all. It's just disgusting. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about this. I did a whole reading vlog for it, but 1 glaring star. Okay, those are all of the 16 books that I have read so far. I do have a couple days left in this month, and I am very close to finishing Slewfoot. I might finish it tonight and pop back in, but if I don't, this will cut to probably Makeabless Katie telling you the rest of the books that she ended up finishing. Why am I talking about myself in the third person? That I ended up finishing in the month of April. Hey, popping in a couple days later, this is the last day of April, and I finished technically 3 books. So I finished Spy Family Volume 6. I was reading this at work over like the course of a couple days, and I don't know who spilled water on it, but you know what? It just makes it a textural moment. Okay, this is the 6th volume. I'm not going to get into what it's about because I've talked about it so many times, but I loved this volume. I think I'm going to give it 4.5 stars because just like in the last one, the kind of main character was Yuri, who I fucking hate. And this one is Fiona, and I don't really like Fiona. I'm not really a fan of her. So, I mean, she's fine, but also she's not. But she, like, her whole storyline with Lloyd in this one, they are pretending to be tennis athletes, like tennis stars. And I really love that because I love tennis and I thought that was really funny. But then the last, like, half of this book is about one of my favorite storylines, which is Damien and Anya, which is like that fucking bullies to lovers. And I am living. I am here for it. I fucking love it. So I really enjoyed this. And then the last two books are actually, I read the same book twice, and that is Slewfoot by Brom. The first time I read it, I gave it 4 stars, and then now the second time reading it, I actually have 20 minutes left, but I'm going to consider it, having read it, obviously, for this month. But I think I'm going to give it 5 stars. I think I'm going to give it 5 stars, or at least 4.5 stars. I need to get the physical book so that when I read it again, I can see all the stunning illustrations with my own eyes instead of looking them up online. But this is about this, like, devil demon thing, Slewfoot, or Samson as he's referred to in the book. But he has been lying dormant and has been asleep, and he has reawakened, and there is a couple who has like a corn farm, Abatha and her husband Edward, but her husband Edward's, I almost said son, his brother Wallace, who is a piece of trash, he's terrible, is like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm like selling your farm to this guy to pay off my debt. Because technically, like, your dad put it in my name. I know you built the farm, but like, LOL, psych, and he like takes it. Oh, I thought my insulin pump was going off. It's not. Oh, it is. My blood sugar's low. It's probably why I'm being so crazy. Edward's like, no, oh my God, Wallace, like, don't. And Abatha's like, Edward, get a backbone, bitch. But then this demon needs blood to reawaken, and his little children, his little wood sprites, go and are like, kill Edward. And then the demon drinks his blood, and he reawakens. And then it's like, Abatha wants to keep her farm, so she has to gain all this like corn and this money. She's got to raise the corn to raise the coin. Do you see what I'm saying? And the demon is like helping her do that. But obviously at this time, witchcraft is like a huge no-no against our Lord Savior, Jesus Christ. It's a good book. It's like a horror fantasy. It's so good. The audiobook is stunning. It's stunning. And there's a part where she sings a song, like a whole fucking song. And it's so good. I literally have listened to it 5 times. Like, I love it. I love it. It's so good. And I think that like the little sprites, like Forrest was so cute. Like, I loved it. I love Samson. We love a demon daddy. He is a demon daddy. We love it. Abatha is that bitch. She is that bitch. Like, this is kind of a revenge story too. It's so good. There's so many things that you can like read it more than once and like get new things out of it, or love different characters, or love different parts. Like, it's so good. I would highly suggest it. I think it's awesome. I think a physical read is good. I also think the audiobook is really good, especially for the part where she sings. Like, it's stunning. It's so beautiful. So anyway, I read that twice, so love that for me. And we're gonna roll into outro, Katie. That is gonna wrap it up for all the books that I read this month. I did pretty well, if I do say so myself, and I have very good intentions for my reads for May, so stay tuned to see my TBR for that. I'm very excited, especially for my book club picks, not only for the Smut Salon, but also I will be taking part in Kayla's Literally Dead book club in the month of May, and I'm so freaking excited. I'm so excited. If you've gotten this far into the video, we can leave a snake for Medusa. Leave a snake. I love that. Okay, so if you want to follow me on Goodreads or Instagram, the links are going to be down below, as well as a link to my Patreon. If you ever want to be a bunny and join us, we would love to have you. And a myriad of other links if you feel so inclined to support this channel in any other way. And all of that being said, I hope that you are having an amazing day, evening, night, dusk, dawn, whatever it is you're having right now, in whatever part of the world you're having it in. And I will see you in a video coming very soon. Bye.